Hello and happy Wednesday. Today on the Busy Bride podcast, I'm coming to you solo to talk all about bridal details. The little things that might not be top of mind on your wedding day and how they affect both your experience and your photos since I am a photographer. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the Busy Bride podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella Marie, and I created this podcast to help you research vendors and learn valuable advice as you plan the most special and true to you wedding day of your dreams. Let's get started. All right, it's been bonkers crazy town over here. I'm literally right now in the busiest part of my wedding season. So I just had 2 weekends of double weddings in a row. I have a really big wedding in a couple days, and then a 2-day wedding after that, and then another wedding after that. And they're all freaking amazing, and I'm living my absolute best life. But I'm just working all day, every day, into the evenings, but I wouldn't change it for the world because these weddings have been absolutely insane. So fun, so beautiful, and like the coolest couples on the planet. I don't know how they all find me, but they're all super awesome. So I'm thriving and, working a lot, but I still wanted to come in and show up in the midst of this chaos to provide some helpful info for you so that you can plan your wedding day to make sure it's the best day it can possibly be, which, spoiler alert, it will be, even if you don't follow any of these tips. These are just cherries on top here. But we're talking about bridal details today. I think I want to split this episode into like 3 major parts. Just things that I have noticed as a photographer, just being with couples throughout their wedding day that have an impact both on experience, like the wedding day experience, and also on the wedding photos. So first thing first, we're going to talk about wedding details. So when I say details as a photographer, I mean the detail flat lay that I always start the day with, which includes the rings, jewelry, stationery, etc. You may have seen the pictures where it's kind of like all laying on the floor and there's like some flowers around. So that's what I'm going to start with because that's what I start the day with usually when I show up on a wedding day. I photograph the details. So tip number 1 for the details is to have them all together in one spot, either in a bag or a box or just one general area, so that when your photographer shows up, you can just say, "Those are my details," and then they can get to work and make a beautiful flat lay, and it saves time from gathering like, "Oh, all right, okay, so my earrings, I think they're in this bag in this room. Can somebody go get that? Because I'm getting my hair and makeup done right now." It can be a little chaotic if you don't have them all together in one place. So plan ahead. At some point the week before the wedding, just get them all together as much as you can. I know there's some details that you can't get together ahead of time, but as much as you can ahead of time, that just saves some chaos and headache the morning of. And then for what to include in your details, you can include as little as just your rings, jewelry, and shoes. That's like typically the bare minimum of what people use for details. Sometimes it's literally just the rings, and that's totally cool too. But what to include in details, if you are like, well, I can include anything because I'm planning to include things, so tell me what to include. This is what you can include in your details. I already said rings, so like the wedding bands, an engagement ring or rings. Any jewelry you're going to wear, so earrings, necklace, extra rings, bracelets, things like that. Stationery is huge. This is the invitation suite. So if you have, the invitation itself, the save the date. If you have any extra little details, cards that you really like the design of. If you have somebody doing your stationery like an artist, then they'll have a full suite for you. You can include all of that. Sometimes even the envelope is really pretty, has a cool design. You want to include that. Sometimes you want to include the little stamp seal thing that you use to close the envelope. So that whole invitation suite, that's really fun. I use that as like the base for designing the flat lay because it really just tells like the story, like, okay, this is what's happening. And then there's all the other details kind of scattered around. So that's a big thing. Shoes, if you have fun shoes, cute shoes, pretty shoes that you picked out just for today or for your wedding day, That is something definitely to include. If you have any cute little purses that you got for the day, I know a lot of brides will have like a purse that somebody else is in charge of, knowing where it is at all times. But in that purse is like your phone and some tissues and some chap or lipstick touch up, maybe some like something to dab your eyes if you start crying. Things like that is in your little purse. So if you get a cute purse for that, then that can be included as well. Any heirloom items. So like if you have, I don't know, great grandma's handkerchief, or if you're wearing grandma's necklace, something like that, or like I've seen a lot of uh, brooches. Is that how you say it? Like the big pins. I think you know what I mean. I never know how to say it. I always see the word, but I don't really say it out loud often. But those can be included too, because that's kind of part of like the generations of being married. So that's really cool. If you have something old, new, borrowed, blue that's not like on your person, or if it can be photographed in the details, that's also really cute to include as well. If you have a special perfume that you picked out for the day, or I know some people are going on like scent dates before the wedding and making perfumes and colognes custom, which like you can do that now as a date. So if you want to do that, go do it because it sounds really fun. But if you have a special perfume, definitely include that. And side note, the reason why having perfume is a thing, to include in details on your wedding day, is because our brains attach strong memories to scents. So, like if you smell, I don't know, grandma's cookies, you're brought back to childhood Christmas time. I don't know, it's an example. But the thing is, if you wear a new scent, like a new perfume on your wedding day, then when you wear that scent on any other special days, like anniversaries or special dates, then your brain is like triggered to remember your wedding day and all of the joy and all of the emotions that come with that. So that's why special perfumes and special colognes are a thing for wedding details. Um, what else? Yeah, custom dress hanger. If you have a custom dress hanger, that's something you can include too. You can get those in Etsy. You can have somebody like paint your name, like your new last name if you're changing your name, on a dress hanger. Or I know they have some on Etsy where there's like a gold or silver wire in the shape of your name that kind of goes across underneath the hanger. And they look really cool. And the reason people get custom dress hangers is because I don't know why they do this, but wedding dresses always come on the ugliest hangers known to mankind. They're just big old ugly hangers, and they're really big because wedding dresses are really heavy. So it makes sense that they need to be big, but it's just so silly to me that the most beautiful dresses come on these just old clunker hangers. So that's why some people have custom dress hangers. As a wedding photographer, I always bring like a plain white simple hanger that can be used across the board for all weddings, in case the bride doesn't have a custom dress hanger, because then we don't use the clunky dress hanger, and it's still a pretty picture. So I always bring one just in case. So yes, I think that's mostly what is included in detailed pictures. I also bring some things as a photographer too to kind of spice it up. I have like a mat that I use to lay things on if there's no good space otherwise. I have little dishes, I have some ribbon, stuff like that to just add to the flat lay. Um, One more thing too, I almost forgot. Your bouquet can be used in the flat lay, but even more than that, if you can ask your florist, this is huge, so please remember this. If you can ask your florist to bring some extra flowers for the photographer for the flat lay, they'll know what you mean. That is huge. That is kind of like the difference between what makes my favorite flat lays my favorite, because when the florist brings extra flowers, it is just like an extra touch that elevates the flat lay and makes it so much prettier, and it's extra touches of your wedding because it's like it is your vibes, your theme for the day, your colors. So it's great there. Okay. So that's all the details. Now moving on to part 2 of 3, and we're talking about clothing, kind of. So, like dress, shoes, etc. Things to think about with this. So, let's start with the experience. Shoes. Um, Make sure you break your shoes in before wedding day, please, because there's a lot of standing and walking involved. Even if you have transportation between places, you just need to, like, there's a lot of moving around. And then your ceremony, you're standing. Even Catholic ceremonies, you do stand a good amount. So remember that you will be using your shoes. They're not just going to be like the pretty ones in the pictures, that they should, they should be like kind of comfortable to wear. Now, if you have your heart set on a pair of shoes that aren't the most comfortable, but they just look so cute and you just really want to wear them on your wedding day, then I really recommend bringing a shoe change. So this can be either a different sort of heel or fancy shoe that you can change into after pictures or after ceremony for a cocktail hour and reception, so you can still wear them for your first dance and stuff like that. Or this can be like a full-on shoe change for the dance part of the reception, where you're good in your heels or your shoes like for the bulk of the day, but then when it comes to dancing, it's a whole different level of shoedom. So you need different shoes. That's really popular and I think a great idea, because when you're dancing, you want to be able to fully dance and not be in pain at all. So I've seen couples do either matching or some sort of complimentary like sneakers for a shoe change. I just photographed a wedding where they got sneakers, and it was Nikes. I'm not a sneakerhead, so I don't know which kind, but they're like one of the popular ones, and they're both mostly white, but the groom shoes had a little touch of gray to them, and the bride shoes had a little touch of blue to them, so it's kind of like or something blue. So that was really cute, and we got a cool picture with them doing that, because the bride also did a dress change, and that's another part of this that we'll get into later because we're talking about experience still. So she did a dress change, shoe change, so we did the whole photo, cute little cocktail photo with that. But yes, so make sure your shoes are comfortable. And make sure if they're not comfortable that you have a pair of shoes to change into, so you don't have to walk around barefoot. So there's that. Another thing to consider is if you're like, could go either way, you're like, yeah, I kind of want to wear cute shoes, but like, I don't need to. Your wedding dress is most likely long and touching the floor, so you don't really see your shoes that much anyway, only when you're walking. And especially if you're walking like upstairs, you have to kind of hike your dress up. But like not even all the time when you're walking. It's only like little flashes of your shoes here and there. You really don't see them that much. So that's also something to consider if your dress is long. So those are the shoe experience things. Now for the dress and for your clothes, outfits, all the things. For the experience, for the dress. If your dress is heavy, I really recommend a dress change for the reception, because with it being on you all day, especially if it's a summer wedding or a warm weather wedding and you're sweating and you're hot, having a heavy dress on is going to make you extra hot, and also it'll make you feel very easily like overwhelmed or flustered. So, if you have your heart set in dress, go for it, because it's your wedding day and it's your wedding dress. Just remember that when it comes to like the dancing part, when you're going to be moving around a lot, it might be nice to be able to kind of breathe a little bit more and have some more movement. So that's something for heavy dresses. And then for dress buttoning, or I guess fastening, because sometimes there's zippers, sometimes there's buttons, sometimes there's ties. Make sure you plan accordingly for getting ready if your dress takes long to get on versus if it doesn't take long to get on. So some dresses will have like the illusion of buttons, but it's really just a zipper. Those are usually super quick to get on. If it's the little buttons that have the tiny little elastic bands that you need a crochet hook to get on, that usually takes some time. So make sure you plan some extra time for getting ready to get dressed in, because even if the dress goes on easy, it literally just like takes time to get the hook around the little band and then over the button, and there's a lot of those buttons. So beautiful dress, but it just takes time. And then also sometimes dresses have like little straps. Ribbons, like if it's a corset and you gotta kind of keep pulling it tighter, that takes a while to kind of loop all the way through, first of all, and then it takes like 2 or 3 more rounds to re-loop and make sure it's tight enough and like a comfortable fit. So that takes a long time as well. So just make sure you kind of you know, insert time for that. And then for the train of the dress, the way your dress fluffs. As a photographer, I feel like I've said a lot this episode. I fluff dresses all freaking day long because you got your dress so that it's, in its full glory as much as possible on your wedding day. So for as many photos as possible, I'm always fixing your train, making sure your dress is all fluffed and beautiful and out and pretty and stuff like that. And there's some dresses that are really easy to fluff and some that are not so easy to fluff. So if you have a dress that's not so easy to fluff, this is what it could look like. It could be something that a dress that has like multiple layers underneath, and sometimes those layers kind of bunch up underneath, need to be pulled down. So that's something to consider, or just like keep in mind, or tell your photographer that that's a thing with your dress and that there's a couple layers that might need to be like adjusted throughout. So that's something to think about. If your dress is kind of like skin tight, then sometimes if there's like buttons going all the way down the back, those shift around because our bodies move all day, and so sometimes the dress shifts. So even if it's a skin tight dress, like that might have to be adjusted, which takes a little bit of extra time too for photos. So again, just tell your photographer that that's a thing and that they need to look out for that, and then you'll be good. But again, it's just something to think about. And then for the fluffing of the train, I would say the easiest trains to fluff are like the dresses that are plain silk one layer, if that makes sense. Like there's no like it's a thick layer and you can just fluff it once and it lays flat. So if you want your dress fluffed a lot all day, that's definitely, if you haven't gotten your dress yet, that's something to consider. But I mean, the dresses that have all the detailing and the thin layers are freaking gorgeous too. So they just take a little extra time, a couple extra seconds to fluff. So it's no big deal, but it's just something to consider. If you're a person who likes to go, go, go beyond the move, then that's something to consider when getting your dress. But if you're somebody who's like, I don't care, it's my wedding day, like, yeah, I'll take the extra 10 seconds to make sure my train is good, then there you go. No worries for you. So that's just kind of like the experience and kind of thinking about that. And then for the pictures, yeah, get a dress change. Why not? Why the heck not? I mean, if you're somebody who's like, I want to be my dress all day long, then go for it because nobody's stopping you and it's a beautiful dress, and do it. Just make sure you can dance in it. If you want to dance, if that's your thing. If you don't want to dance, just make sure you're comfortable in it all day. You don't want to be like wanting to take it off. You want to be like in it all day. So, things to think about there. And then the last part of this 3-part Bridal Details little mini series here is your hair. Couple things to consider with your hair, ideas to consider as well. Wind. Even if you're having an indoor ceremony, if you're going to be outdoors for pictures, wind is a factor that just gets overlooked all the time. And it's almost always there in some way. I feel like when I look at my weather app, there's always like, it listed a little bit of wind, a gentle breeze. It's pretty rarely just like stale air. So just consider your hair moving in the wind. Your hair and makeup artists, I say this all the time, they're pros. They know what they're doing. They are making sure your hair and makeup stay put all day long, through wind, through happy tears, all that jazz. But if your hair is down, or if you have strands on the side of your face that are hanging down, the wind will move it. Even though they can go back in place and look perfect, again, afterwards, the wind will move it in general. So if you want to do a lot of outdoor pictures, or if you're having an outdoor ceremony, maybe consider some sort of hairstyle where at least part of your hair is pinned back out of your face, so you don't have like hair whooping into your face when you're smiling for a family picture. If that makes sense. So that's something to consider, the wind. And I think I talked about this in an episode before, but I'm going to say it again. If you have your hair down, parted, or if you have strands of hair hanging down on the side of your face, when you're standing sideways during your wedding ceremony, your hair could be blocking your face, which means your face is blocked for a lot of the pictures, and it's blocked for the guests, and they can't really see your reactions to anything. So if you have longer hair, you might be able to tuck those strands behind your ears, or you can like pin them up for the ceremony if you don't want your face to be covered at all, and then take them back down for pictures afterwards. Lots of things you can do, but it's just something to be aware of and consider going in. Another thing with hair, you can have a hair change. This is really fun. My friend got married last winter and she did a hair change, and I didn't know she was going to do it. She had her hair in like a very bridal bun. So it was like a low bun for the ceremony. It was beautiful. It worked so well with her strapless dress. It was gorgeous. And then when she and her husband entered the reception, her hair was down, but had like, it was partially up, like she had some strands in front that were kind of pinned in the back. But it was all curled from the bun, and it looked so beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So that's something you could do. Or I just photographed a wedding where the bride had her hair down for most of the day, most of the pictures. It was that hairstyle where most of your hair is down, but then there are a couple strands in the front that are kind of pulled back tight and then are pinned to the base of your, like the nape of your neck. So it creates a headband effect. Super cool look. That was her look for most of the day. And then when she did her dress change for the reception, she also changed her hair, swooped it into a ponytail, wrapped some hair around the ponytail band so you couldn't see it, and boom, hair change, dress change, shoe change. She was a different woman for the reception. So that's something you consider too. It's always fun to do that. So yes, especially if you're like, again, a dancer and you want to really enjoy your reception and just not think about anything else. Highly recommend all of those things. And then this is the craziest thing. You could do a hair chop. I've seen weddings online. I haven't photographed one, but I've seen online where the hair makeup artist will either stay or come back and they'll do a freaking hair chop. So if you have long hair and you're just waiting to cut it and you think it'd be really cool to surprise your guests and maybe even your spouse, it could be cool to enter the reception with a chopped hairdo. So that's wild. It's out there, but it could be really cool and really fun. So I hope you learned something today. We talked about details, like for your flat lay details. We talked about clothing, your hair, and the experience. All of those things, like how they can affect your experience on your wedding day, and also how they can affect your photos. So if you did learn something, I would love if you would answer the multiple choice poll below this podcast. So just a click of your finger, a little tap. Let me know if this was helpful. Or if you're a boss and you already knew all this, that helps me too. It just helps me to know what to talk about in future episodes so that I can help you, the best of my ability, plan the wedding that is like the best day ever and has you having the best experience ever, because that is the most important part, because it's the foundation of your marriage, and that is of utmost importance. So, a little rant over. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. Now, go hug your person, and I will see you next Wednesday.